Joining us now from Pro Football Focus, it's our buddy John Owning. And a good afternoon to you, sir. How the heck are you?
Man, it's a good day. It's a good day. Cannot complain. How y'all doing?
Man, about the same. Yeah, looking forward to getting this season started and seeing what kind of a team they're going to put together. Had a couple of injury scares today, but appears we're getting off clean on that, so that's good. But, John, I'd love your big picture expectations from this team. Is there any chance they are, let's say, better than last year in any way?
Now, that's the thing. It's tough. I think that in the NFL, where teams are so closely, where their talent levels are so close, and just the little things are what separates you, and like luck plays a big part into it. I would say the complete roster isn't as good as it was last year, but there's definitely an avenue where they have better, where their results are better than they were last year. You get a couple of bounces of a ball to go the right way. You get, you play better in bigger situations. Like you don't lay an egg against the Packers. You come up and you play better. I definitely think there's an avenue to where they do perform better over the long haul of the season, but I would say odds are that, especially in the regular season, they're not going to perform up to that 12-5 standard that they've set the last 3 years.
John, it's a big day for you, man. Carl Lawson is finally a Dallas Cowboy. You have been dreaming about this moment for many, many years, and I just want to say congratulations. This has happened. How pumped are you that the Cowboys made this signing?
I'm very excited, very, very excited, especially, given the fact that he worked out with the team a couple weeks ago and they didn't make that sign. They didn't sign him then. From everything that I heard, it came down to kind of a money thing where Tony and AQM were Al-Qadim Muhammad were a little bit cheaper, and they were going to see if they were able to solve their issues with kind of the cheaper route. And once they saw that, Shaka Tony with his groin injury and Al-Qadim Muhammad just aren't performing up to snuff to be able to replace the production that, Sam Williams left, Dante Fowler left. I think that made them decide that they wanted to go get someone that was maybe a little bit more expensive to help their edge depth, especially. I think he, when healthy, has proven to be a very effective pass rusher off the edge. I think he's someone who has familiarity with the scheme dating back to his time in Cincinnati. He didn't play under Mike Zimmer, but he did play under Paul Guenther, so I think the Cowboys are very aware of the skill set that he has and the things that he can bring to this scheme and this defense. So I'm very excited. I think he's someone who can kind of play in that Dante Fowler role that they had last year, a guy that can be a really effective pass rush specialist for them, who can be efficient on pass rush downs, third downs, two-minute situations, those type of situations where you need to generate as much pressure on opposing quarterbacks as possible. And that's something that when he's been healthy, Carl Lawson's been able to do throughout his career.
They also bring in big Jordan Phillips as well to bolster up the D-line and the run stopping. What do you make of this Zimmer defense? Do you feel like this has the potential to be better than the defense that Dan Quinn was bringing to stadiums every Sunday?
I definitely think so. I think where Dan Quinn was so good at, the motivation factor and things like that and getting his players to play fast, I think Zim is going to bring kind of the scheme element into it, and he's going to be able to kind of play chess with the opposing offensive coordinators where Quinn kind of didn't. We saw that Quinn has kind of had trouble with the Shanahan and McVay kind of coaching trees, those teams that use a lot of play action, use a ton of motion at the snap, a ton of shifts, give your offense a ton of eye candy, and they try to exploit the weaknesses in your zones and in your communication and those type of things. And I think Zimmer does a much better job of establishing like orders of operations for going against motion. I think that's a big thing we've all noticed with the Zimmer scheme during the preseason and during when we were down in training camp is that the Cowboys are handling motion much more effectively. They have definitive things. The one thing that I keep harping on is that they're keeping the math in their advantage. So much about playing defense, especially coverage-wise, is you want to have the math advantage. And by that, I mean you want to have, if they have two receivers to one side, you want to be able to have three coverage defenders to that side. So you have 3/2. Or if they have three receivers on that side, you have 4/3. And when teams created motion last year, that would kind of mess with the math of the Dan Quinn defense. They didn't do a good job of, when they would be static, they would be 3/2 on one side. But when they motion one receiver over to create a 3-receiver side, it would kind of be a 3-over-3, and you get a only man-on-man situation. And if everybody is not perfect, you can get exploited, especially if you don't generate pressure on the opposing quarterback. And that was kind of something that became an issue for the Cowboys, I believe, last year when teams were, putting a ton of emphasis on slowing down Micah Parsons and no one else was really getting home consistently. They were able to, exploit the Cowboys through the air. And I think that's something that Mike Zimmer is going to do. He's not going to allow offenses to exploit the math. He's going to always be able to keep things 3-over-2, 4-over-3, keep that math advantage for the Cowboys defense. And that's going to allow them to, I think, have more success against these more cutting edge offenses that they're going to see, the Shanahans, the McVays, the LaFleurs of the world.
Hey, John, watching practice, I feel like that they've addressed the defensive tackle spot. They've addressed really the end spot. That was something they were kind of chasing on both fronts. I'm thinking about this running back group might be the next one. Is that in line with what you're thinking? And do you see that as being something that they're absolutely going to have to address?
I wouldn't say it's something that they have to address, but it's something that I think if the right opportunity presents itself, you should definitely take that opportunity. Like, say if someone like I'm going to butcher this name really bad, but the guy on the Jets, Israel, I think it's like Abanikanda.
Yep.
Someone like him becomes somebody like him becomes available who can, give you a little bit more of a big play ability, still does a good job with vision. Because the Jets have a really stacked running back group, if he somehow gets waived or released, or the Cowboys can, throw a conditional 7th-round pick their way during cut downs that bring them over here and not have to fight on the waiver wire, that's something that I would definitely explore. But I'm not looking to just grab a running back for running back's sake. I think if you had to go into the season with Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle, and, Royce Freeman or Malik Davis, and depending on what you want to do with our guy Hunter Lupke, I'm totally fine with that, because I'm the type of guy that thinks that what you do up front is going to dictate how well your running backs are going to play. And I think as long as the Cowboys offensive line does their job, and the Cowboys offensive coordinator and play caller and scheme developer do a good job of mixing up the schemes, using play action, keeping defenses on their toes, using motion at the snap, using shifts, those type of things, I think they can still be successful enough on the ground that it's not going to inhibit their passing game, and it's going to allow their total offense to still be very effective.
John Owning with us here on 105.3 The Fan in the GBag Nation. When you're looking at the landscape of the NFC East, it's weird, man. We have not had a repeat champ since the Eagles did it in 2004. Are the Cowboys, you think, still the favorite? Are the Eagles much better? Do you believe in maybe Washington making a jump with Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn now there?
Definitely don't believe in the Commanders or the Giants, especially given with a rookie quarterback. I think that especially when you're talking about interdivision matchups with the other teams, the Cowboys match up extremely well with the Commanders, especially because, Jaden Daniels, Mike Zimmer in the past has done extremely well against rookie quarterbacks because he's so good at disguising things, sending blitzes, using combination coverages on third down. You guys know how wild Zimmer likes to get on third down, and that really confuses opposing rookie quarterbacks. So I'm not really worried in that sense about the Commanders. I think they'll be better, but I don't think they'll be good enough that they're really a threat to win the NFC East. And I just think, like most other years, this last half decade, it's going to come down to the Cowboys and Eagles, and it's going to be one of those things. The Eagles have a lot of talent, but I'm not sure how well their totality of talent meshes together well. And then you have the issues with the head coach and Jalen Hurts, and we've seen in the past and down the stretch of last season how that can really devolve a team and really create issues as they're going down the stretch, and to allow them to play much lower than their ceiling, than their potential is. So I think the Cowboys still have a really good opportunity. Obviously, things have to go right, and so much of this has to do with health and injuries, and as long as Cowboys can avoid, those really crippling injuries at important positions, I think they can definitely vie, and they'll be right there at the very end. It's probably going to be like most of the years, one of the things that it comes down to the last week or two between the Eagles and the Cowboys.
John, what do you think about Dak going into his last year? Is he good enough for you that you think re-signing him should be a no-brainer?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm a big Dak Prescott fan. I think He does everything that he's obviously not, the Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen's of the world. He's not that type of tier of quarterback, and I think that's fine. He's a good enough quarterback to where you can win with him. He's a good enough quarterback that can take you on a run if everything else is going well. And just the problem has been since his tenure, there have been things that have gone on outside of his control that have not allowed the Cowboys to kind of move forward. We just kind of need the rest of the team to play up to their capabilities in the playoffs, and I think we'll see Dak Prescott operate well. I mean, we saw him retire Tom Brady, and he played out of his mind in that game, so I don't think it's something that the pressure gets to him. I just think the rest of the team maybe is not playing up to snuff in those situations, and I think he definitely – everything we see from him from an accuracy point of view, from a decision-making, from a, operating at the line of scrimmage, I think he has it all from an ability to be able to take the Cowboys on a nice playoff run if, like I said, the rest of the Cowboys team plays up to their potential. I'm
pretty much there with you. I do wonder if the team does enough in free agency and trades to build out the kind of roster that could play to that level around him.
Yeah, it's a problem. I think the Cowboys kind of sitting on their hands throughout the offseason, only bringing in, Eric Kendricks until really we get into training camp. I think even though we like the fact that they signed Carl Lawson, that they traded for Jordan Phillips and those type of things, making those type of moves, it would have been better if they would have made those type of moves when there was a greater pool of free agents to choose from, where you could have chose from maybe some more talented players, maybe some players that don't have the injury history that these guys have, or what have you be. So it's just, I'm kind of worried about the depth, and that's why I think injuries are always so important every year, but I think it's even more important this year because they have some positions where if they take an injury or two, it's going to be extremely difficult for them to be able to climb out of that hole.
Are you paying Dak Prescott $60+ million?
For sure. I've been paid him. I would have paid him. I think he's
been paid him.
And especially in this climate, you don't want to go into it without a quarterback. I think it's just we're playing roulette, just trying to, roll the dice that you're going to get another quarterback in. I think the Cowboys have already been extremely lucky with Tony Romo and Dak Prescott to be able to get them with an undrafted free agent and fourth-round pick. I think trying to test your luck in that situation again is very tough, and I don't think the Cowboys are going to be bad enough to where they're going to get a high enough draft pick to where you feel confident that they are going to be able to pick from a pool of quarterbacks that are talented enough that makes you feel good about where you're going to move. So, if the Cowboys are going to be in that kind of mediocre aspect of the NFL, you're just not going to be in a situation where you're going to be able to grab, the most talented quarterbacks. You're still going to be hoping that you're able to get kind of lucky like they have been. And just, I don't think they have the Packers quarterback luck.
What kind of a grade do you give Mike McCarthy for last year, what he's done with the offense, and if we should be rooting for him to get another contract to be the head coach?
I go back and forth on this because one thing that really worries me is the offense that he and Schottenheimer designed coming into last season. We saw how it was a lot of short stuff. There was a very static offense. And I will give him credit for making the changes necessary coming out of the bye. But the fact that you had to make those changes in the first place and those weren't implemented going into the season is a little bit worrisome. So that is something that worries me. Obviously, the game management things are a little bit worrisome. But I do think he does a better job than a lot of people give him credit for. I don't think the Cowboys would have been 3 straight 12-5 seasons if he was a terrible coach. But I don't think he's a coach that is, he's obviously not like the Sean McVays of the world that are going to get you 1 or 2 games just because they're better schemers, they're better decision makers, and they put their players in the right positions to make plays more consistently than most other coaches. But he's not going to cause you to lose games consistently either. I just think he's kind of a level coach. So it honestly is one of those things where either way, I'll be fine with it.
Sounds good, John. Sounds like you got a party to go to, actually.
Yeah, what's going on?
I got a couple to go to. I got the Carl Lawson party to go to, and then we got this weekend's the biggest weekend in grappling. Anybody that knows me, I'm huge into grappling from being a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. We got like the World Championships of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu this weekend with 2 big tournaments for over $1 million. So I'm going to be parked up in front of my computer watching the Cowboys preseason game and the UFC fight, so I'm very excited.
Hell yeah, John.
Live it up, brother. Thanks for your time.
Hey, appreciate you guys.